Hello Year 10, welcome to the week beginning the 8th of June. Your focus this week is on question 5 for both paper 1 and paper 2. So grab yourselves a glass of water, open a Word document or grab a pen and paper and get comfy as I take you through this week's tasks regarding language. Remember, if you have any questions, as always, just contact me via Teams and I'll be happy to help you. So first of all, question 5 is back. So let's remember the importance of question 5. It does appear on both your language papers. It is worth 50% of both papers, so a huge chunk of each paper is taken up with this question. It counts for 25% of your overall language grade, and there are 40 marks available. 24 for content, which is the organisation of your work and what you actually physically write, and 16 marks for SPAG, spelling, punctuation and grammar. So the words that you spell correctly, you'll get marks for. The punctuation and the way that you vary your punctuation using semicolons, colons, commas, full stops, question marks, exclamation marks, etc. in the right way will all be marked. Always start with this question 5 on both papers, purely because it is the biggest question. It has the most marks available, and that way you can go straight into the exam with the biggest question, do really well on it, be the most fresh in your mind with this question. Otherwise, you're going to go through 4 reading questions and then have to get to question 5, and then you might find that you're rushing through it and not have the full 45 minutes that you're allowed because you spent X amount of time on the first 4 questions. So if you spend the first 45 minutes of your exam for both papers in language on question 5, this is the best way forward for you to get the most marks available. So remember, this week will be the same as the last. Okay, so you'll have 2 hours of work ahead for the whole week. So it's actually half the amount of usual lesson time, which means you've got more time to spend on the quality of the work that you submit. So please don't rush through this. Spend a full hour on each task. Okay, 15 minutes planning, 45 minutes writing for each task. You have a question for paper 1, question 5, which is a narrative question, a story writing question almost, if you like, descriptive writing question for this week, and a paper 2 letter writing non-fiction question as well. Please remember, this is not new. None of this is new, okay? This is all revision. And also remember, your exams are still the same. We have it all under control, okay? We've only got between 4 and 6 weeks of teaching new content left for you, and then the revision will follow for the rest of the year. So don't panic. Don't feel that because we've had this time away from school that you're at a disadvantage. You're not. We're in a very, very good position with English, and this is not new. This is revision we're trying to help you with, and the rest will come in time, okay? So between 4 and 6 weeks left of actual new teaching, but everything is revision from this point forward. Okay, mission number 1, your first task for the week. Okay, you're going to spend 45 minutes writing this and 15 minutes planning, so an hour in total. And your first task is to write a narrative story that starts using the image above, okay? The first thing I want you to do is imagine that you're stood here. Think about the detail. Think about the trees and the lake and the colours that you can see. And the first thing I want you to do with this task is to list 3 things you would see, smell, hear and touch. So you're using the 4 main senses, okay? If you're thinking, I don't know how to start, I don't know what to do, I can't start this, refer to the next slide. Okay, so this is a way to start. Now, you can pause the video if you want and just read it yourself. I'm going to read it as well so you've got it and you can hear it being read aloud. Obviously you can pause the video and I will give you a few seconds after I've read it to pause if you need to. The calm of the deep green pool in the middle of the glade was disturbed only by the rocking of a small wooden boat. It rocked back and forth, so lazily in the slight breeze that was beginning to blow. Taking a deep breath in, Susie let the smell of the wildflowers fill her lungs. It was a pleasant smell. It reminded her of her grandmother's garden, and the thought made her smile. So as you can see from this opening paragraph, you've got a lot of varied punctuation, such as the semicolon after smell. You've got some more sophisticated vocabulary being used, just starting to edge towards some more sophisticated. And you've also got quite a bit of sensory language to get you started. So as I said, you can use this if you want. If you don't want to use it, then fine. You want to use it as inspiration to sort of take a couple of ideas from, a couple of key words from, but otherwise it's there as a starting point. So what should a narrative story look like? Now, as we all know, most, if not all, stories have a beginning, a middle and an end. They might vary in the way that they begin and end, okay, but they all have a clear structure. So yours should also have the same. It should contain your main character or narrator and some other characters where possible, but don't overload it with characters. Because remember, the most important thing about this question is that the examiner is looking for concise, clear, carefully crafted language. Language devices, language choices, adjectives, adverbs, use of punctuation. Okay, it's about being clear and clever and creative. It's not about what can I add to this story or how exciting can I make my character and their journey appear. It's the way that you're writing it to make the story become interesting, and the way that you craft your ideas is what they're looking for. There should be no violence, no guns, no knives, no kidnappings, no mentions of Joe Exotic or Phil Mitchell, and please avoid death, because the more that you focus on things like that, the less credibility your writing has. And it's all about the way that you write. Now, to help you on this slide, there are some references to the way that you could describe sight, sounds, smell and touch. So I'm not going to read you through each individual word. Again, I'll give you a few seconds to pause the screen. Mission number 2. So this is your second task for the week. This is your non-fiction paper 2, question 5. Now in this question, in the exam, you may be asked to write a leaflet, a speech, a blog, an article, a letter. Okay. In this case, we are looking at writing a letter. You could also in the exam be asked to write to argue, persuade, inform, explain, advise or instruct. In this case, we are asking you to argue. Now please remember, when it says argue, it doesn't mean to be aggressive or to be argumentative in an aggressive way. It's about putting your point across in an arguing way that is convincing and strong and relevant. Okay, so this is your question. An area of local forest land is going to be destroyed to build an estate of 15 houses. Argue either for or against the destruction of the land for house building in a letter to your local governor. If you are arguing against the destruction of land, remember the tone should be argumentative but not aggressive. As I said, if you are arguing for the building of the houses, your tone should be grateful and supportive of the local governor. So you're writing to a local governor, okay? But please remember this person does not exist. So don't feel that the argument you've got to put across has got to be completely true. You may not even believe in what you're actually writing. But the main thing is, if you think you've got more points to argue against the destruction of land, okay, rather than arguing for the building of the houses, then you're better off writing against, because you've got the most points, and the more that you can write and the more reasons for not destroying the land. Okay, so your first task today is to list all of the reasons for and against destroying land to build houses on, okay, for people to live in. So think of about 5 reasons in total. Aim for 5. Again, if you want to pause the video at this point, you can. but aim for 5, and that way you've got a good constructive plan to use when writing your answer. Okay, writing your answer. Remember to use the proper format of a letter. Okay, so it is a letter. The examiner will be looking for elements and aspects of a letter. So there should obviously be the address at the top for you and for the recipient. Left-hand side, right-hand side. Dear Sir or Madam. You should always open with Dear Sir or Madam, because you don't want to lose the structure of the letter. Open with 3 rhetorical questions if you can, because this will help you to start building your argument from the beginning. It gives you somewhere to go with your argument, because you're going to use your plan to come up with the 3 rhetorical questions, and this can obviously then really help you to carry this on. Ask your recipient to do something, okay? So to sign a petition, to come up with something that's going to help the local environment, to ensure that this does or doesn't happen, okay? Something that's going to require them to do something, so that you're trying to include that person in your letter. So in this case, obviously the local governor. There should be clear paragraphs, again relating to organisation, with different ideas in each. So again, thinking about the structure and the format, going back to this whole clear, careful crafting of your idea and your answers. Sign off with yours sincerely, as you would in a normal letter. And because it is a formal letter, your language should reflect this, as it should in your whole exam anyway. So think about formal language. There should be no text speak, no slang. It should all be standard English to make sure that you get as many marks as possible. And finally, just some help for you to consider some other structural devices. Anecdotes. Remember, a backstory to support your ideas. No examiner is going to be checking that what you write and what your backstory is about is actually true. So as long as it's relevant to the discussion, relevant to the question, then you feel free to write about it. Expert opinions. Professor Green is always a good expert to throw in if you can't think of a name of an expert. Okay, no one's going to be checking again. It's not real. It's just you picking up marks. Statistics. Think about statistics that are going to help you. 48% of the local area I have spoken to believe in this. 1 in 3 people feel that the environment is going to be affected by. Okay, think about statistics. Repetition. This can help reinforce your argument as well as structuring your answer and picking up marks with the examiner. And listing. Saying things like, our green space is so beautiful, so important, so utterly vital to the environment. List your ideas. Okay, I hope that's been useful for you. As ever, if you need anything, please contact me via Teams. I'll be happy to help you along with this. Otherwise, have a good week, everybody, and I will see you next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.